as if by a very strange sense of what the heck news, we are going to talk about the incident which occurs in the New Forest. This article is kind of shocking, so viewer discretion is advised. Before we continue, please help support Witchcraft TV. Also, show your support and help Christian Day, a great content creator. And also, please help support satanic content creators. You can check us out at TST TV. That is the satanictemple.tv. So, earlier today, I covered the ongoing drama with the fake vampire Sean Wild, and it's kind of interesting how we have a news story coming out of the UK that is kind of back into that discussion of what vampires are, and of course, this has involved the pagan community. So here we go. Man sentenced for animal killings in the New Forest. Again, this is controversial. Viewer discretion is advised. Salisbury, England. Benjamin Lewis, who has admitted stealing lambs and depositing animal carcasses outside churches in Hampshire's New Forest, has been detained in a medium secure hospital this week. Lewis, who appears to believe that he will live forever if he drinks blood, and has a fascination with graveyards and vampires. Ah, Jesus Christ. What is with people? Like, fruity language from the outset. One of the things that pisses off the vampire community and pisses off the pagan community is when we have people who approach things using Hollywood tropes, right? And this idea that if you drink blood, you'll live forever. Will you? No. No. But again, we see this, it's like an emerging trend where people either drag paganism through the mud, or they do things thinking that that fiction that they have watched and read is reality. And to be honest, no, it's not. He left the remains of stolen lambs and road-killed deer outside and inside churches, sometimes accompanied by the inverted crosses and tarot cards. Once again, ah, boy. So inverted crosses, the basically the methodology or the method of the inverted cross is to symbolize as above, so below, but in a chaotic fashion. It's reversing the polarity. So, as Satanism kind of explains it, the inverted cross is a manifestation of your journey to self-realization, right? That you are the center of your own universe and that you are working to understanding the world around you as you see it. So the inverted cross is also representative of the tree of life as well. Now, the cross is a Christian thing, but it's also a piss take. Sorry, it's also a stolen thing from the Egyptian Ankh, which is eternal life. But if you invert it, that means that it's not eternal life, it's mortal life. So this guy decided to kind of try and drag paganism again through the mud, but he failed to realize that all he's doing is just proving he doesn't know anything, right? Why would anybody just leave tarot cards with the bodies of animals? It makes absolutely no sense. It serves no purpose. And as for being a vampire, give me a break. You're not going to live forever. Even like, as we spoke before, earlier this morning, right? Blood vampirism is incredibly intimate. It is kind of, and I argue, that I presented the case that the idea of consuming blood is highly intimate with your respective partner, but it's never intended to harm or kill. And this idea that this individual thinks that he's a vampire that's immortal, it just brings vampirism into ill repute. Instead of people wanting to understand that yes, vampires do exist, and yes, there are multiple different types of vampires. Yes, people are now being dragged back into this idea of this is just an individual who wanted to play make believe, who isn't what he says he is. And he's going, look, if you are going through things in your life where you are desperate for help, then help is out there for you guys. But don't try and blame pagans, or do stupid things like this. All right, let's carry on. Local communities were understandably distressed, including clergy, churchgoers, and local pagan groups. And the Hampshire police have devoted considerable resources to identify the perpetrator. Yeah, because the golden rule of paganism is harm none. So we had this individual who is doing this heinous act, right? And he's already broken a Wiccan tenet or a pagan tenet, which is harming none. And this idea of leaving tarot cards serves absolutely no purpose. But again, we as pagans are drawn back into the picture because of occult symbolism, right? It's getting to the point where people claim to be pagan, but they're not. All right, let's carry on. Lewis was arrested after traces of his DNA were found on the remains of a lamb. He admitted causing religiously aggravated intentional harassment, alarm, or distress, and the theft of lambs. Religiously aggravated intentional harassment. Which religion is that then? What avenue of religion are you perpetrating then? Because if you're pagan, you wouldn't be doing this shit. Rather than imposing a prison sentence, the judge made a hospital order under the Mental Health Care Act after concluding that treatment was the appropriate response. I would say, look, if you guys are going through things in your life, then help is available. Within the pagan community, we look after each other. So if you are suffering, help is out there. But this idiot decided that he was going to attack churches and, to a degree, blame paganism for it. Trying to bring paganism back into ill repute, which is unfortunately what he's done. Lewis did not confine his activities to local churches, but also targeted an NHS mental health unit in Hampshire, Anchor House, where he was receiving treatment. He was placed in seclusion after assaulting his psychiatrist, Dr. Guru Malhan, who told the police that his patient was likely to escalate to attacking humans. Yeah. I think it goes to show that we have individuals in our society who, when they start believing things online, they make it manifest. So if you come online, right, and you're searching for vampirism or immortality, right, it kind of plays on your mind to the point where you think you are one. I will be very clear here. Both types of vampires are not physically immortal. We may look young, sure, but there's there's biological reasons for that. But we're not immortal. Nor would we cause harm to animals. Just because I'm sanguine, right? Would I cause harm to an animal? No. I get my blood. Well, I get artificial blood from coconut water, which is the closest to blood out there. But again, I wouldn't harm anyone. Neither would real energy vampires. We just want to be left alone. But again, we have people like this individual coming out and saying they're a vampire. It does extensive damage, especially to our image. Vampirism is kind of, I mean, it still is a subculture. There are still plenty of vampires who don't want to make anyone aware of their existence. And the reason for it is all the stereotypes of people saying, but you don't have fangs, or like you're not like Dracula or the Brides of Dracula, or whatever the situation is. Same with energy vampirism, right? It's a very niche culture. It's within paganism, yeah, but it's a very niche culture. Ah, boy. All right. At Lewis's address, a suitcase was found with newspaper clippings of similar crimes dating back to 2003, when Lewis was jailed after terrorizing a vicar and a vicar's family near his home. Look, we pagans might insult Christianity from time to time, but we would not attack anyone. Along with another man, he made abusive and frightening telephone calls, set off fireworks, and posted obscene images on the church notice board. Okay, this is something that we pagans would not do. So for the British authorities out there, we pagans are peace-loving individuals who will do our best to clear any ill repute that is thrown our way. All right, now comes the vampire part. Oh boy. At the time, he reportedly claimed to be a vampire. I'm getting callbacks to Sean Wilde here. I mean, Sean Wilde claimed he's a vampire, and quite honestly, he's not. But this individual is like, how do you equate terrorizing vicars and churches with being a vampire? I mean, it just raises so many questions. But is he a vampire? No. All right, let's carry on. Making the earlier offending strikingly similar in theme to the current case. Judge William Mosley KC, presiding over the current case, said that Lewis's previous convictions, although a long time ago, demonstrated worrying behavior. At the age of 13, Lewis left a dead frog on a cross in a church, suggesting that these behaviors extended back to adolescence. This is evidence heard from consultant forensic psychiatrist rather than a criminal conviction. He is also reported to have harmed animals as a child. Again, there's kind of like, I get why people would say they're a vampire, because Hollywood makes it so romantic, right? Well, probably not romantic. It is kind of romantic, right? But vampires harm none. We're not going to harm animals. We're not going to leave things on crosses. I mean, can we as vampires enter churches? Yeah, of course we can. We just choose not to. But we wouldn't start leaving things on crosses, right? There's certain lines that we as pagans do not cross. Now, we make fun of Christianity, yes. We point out the shortcomings of Christianity, yes. But we're not going to start vandalizing churches. That's not who we are. And they make a point here about this goes back to his childhood. I would argue he probably was watching one too many Twilight movies, or one too many horror movies. There are plenty of horror movies out there which which do nothing good for the vampiric image. But the line is, when you start harming things, you can no longer really call yourself pagan or believe in pagan values, because we don't harm anything. Now, you could argue that energy vampires harm others, but then we bridge into ethics, because you could say, well, what if the energy vampire was actually healing someone? Ignoring Sean Wilde, right? Ignoring that idiot for a while, right? The thing with energy vampirism is, if you are in close proximity to the person, and if that person gives you consent, that's not harm. It's only harm without consent. It's only harm if you start directing negative energy towards someone. That's where the harm comes in. So what about blood vampirism, right? We spoke about this earlier this morning. Blood vampirism is highly intimate. Highly intimate. But again, consent. Is it harming someone? I mean, bloodletting, when done properly, it's not direct. It wouldn't count as harming. I mean, if there was consent, I mean, all it really is like a pinprick. But would that mean that we violate harming none? No, because of consent. But we're not going to start harming animals. That's the line we do not cross. We're not going to start harming other people. That's the line that we do not cross. And when we see stories like this, it should shock you, because it's like people have people truly believe what they see on TV and in movies. And when you have issues going on with your mind, right? Sometimes movies and TV shows become more credible than reality, and you want to live out what you see in those shows. This is probably why he was doing all the attacks, right? And all the killings was in his mind, he became like a character in the movies or shows that he was watching, or in the books that he had read, right? Such as Twilight, etc. Right? I mean, but this is going to affect the pagan community because once again, you know, people are going to see vampires, they're going to see tarot cards, they're going to have inverted crosses, and they're going to be a bit like pagan this, pagan that, without actually realizing what the symbols truly mean. The upside down cross does not always mean safe, does not always mean the devil's going to come and get you. It's just the reverse of the tree of life, right? In a way, you could argue an inverted cross all the way down to an inversion of as above, so below. So if a normal cross, which is upright, is a tree of life, so as above, so below. So when you invert it, it means so below, as above. So it reverses itself, but it's not necessarily always negative. And we, as pagans, would never just leave our tarot cards anywhere. They stay with us, right? They are an extension of us. So we're not exactly going to start doing morally reprehensible things and leaving our tarot cards behind, because we know better than that. And also, it's incredibly bad faith to do that. PC Jess Sermon said, we've had people who were so upset and frightened by it that they couldn't go to church or see loved ones who are buried in the church grounds because they'd been scared of bumping into him. It's only through perseverance and getting enough evidence that we really got a good result this time. And I can only hope that the community can sleep at ease with this. Yeah. Yeah. We are grateful to note that reports in the UK press, including The Guardian, have made the effort to at least make some distinction between Lewis's beliefs and the overall pagan or occult practice. It is important not to mistake symbolism for identity, and most cases of this nature got nothing to do with pagan or occult past. Yeah, they're correct. 100% correct. You can, I mean, you can identify as whatever you want to identify as long as you're not going to harm anyone. So the issue, it becomes an issue when we pagans once again have to say, look, this guy is not pagan, right? What he's doing is not pagan. And I think the British press are right to distinguish that and to sort of say, okay, so he believed in that kind of darker side of Hollywood fiction to the point where he started to act out and believed that he was this, that, and everything, right? We see there's quite a lot with people that they get hooked onto movies and then they begin to act out those movies, right? Because they feel, oh my gosh, if a person in the movie, if the actor we're watching plays an immortal character because they're a vampire, maybe if I was a vampire, I'd be immortal. Well, in reality, that doesn't work like that. But I think in this case, we have an individual who was harming animals or unaliving animals. It kind of raises back that question of mental health within paganism or mental health in general. So if you guys are struggling out there, there are resources available to you, especially if you need to talk to someone. You know, don't let it get to a point where you lose control, in other words. So there we go. Leave me all your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think of this news story? And I will talk to you guys later.